In an armed robbery, you have to be ready and willing to fight until contact can be definitively broken with your attackers. Hi everyone, this is John with today's active self-protection lesson out of Montreal, Canada. Here we're going to see an armed robber that frankly is one of the crazier defensive scenarios that I have ever seen. We're going to learn important lessons here about using environmental weapons to defend ourselves against bad guys. We're also going to think about how long we might have to fight and the importance of our empty-handed skills to our self-defense. As one of the crazier armed robberies I've ever seen begins, we see one of the bad guys is going to pull a huge machete out of his pants here, and the other guy actually pulls a gun out of his pocket on the right-hand side. And as defenders, we're always on the defense here, and we're always operating at a deficit. And he comes in and starts swinging that machete, and now we see the first of our good guys kind of go around the outside as these guys are getting driven back by the owner and employee who are just not having it. And again, I think they're Canadians. They're not really used to seeing people come at them with guns or with machetes for that matter, but these guys have warriors' hearts and they're like, nah, I'm not taking it, man. Now you can see something interesting here that the guy with the machete is having a hard time against the closer opponent because a machete is a medium range tool, not a short range tool. So if you can get inside his range or use that chair, then you could have protected yourself pretty well. Now at the bottom left of the screen here, we see one of our good guys has one of the bad guys, the one who has the gun, and he's actually got hold of it and he's taken that gun away from him. And I do think it's very interesting that we see here that our good guy has a hold of the gun by the handle, and because of that, the bad guy has a very hard time getting it back. Which is why in the 5Ds+1 we talk about you got to use a distract. Thankfully that this bad guy didn't know that and didn't distract our good guy with pain or with hurting him in other ways, and instead he was able to get the gun away from the guy, which is awesome. But this fight's not over. They can't get out because the door is locked because it's a controlled access door, and so therefore they're fighting this guy. Now this guy here who got a hold of the gun, one of the interesting questions is, did he know how to use it? And if you don't know how to use it, best thing would be to try to disarm it, get the magazine out of it and get rid of it if you don't know how to use it, because it stays in the fight. It's going to come back into play here in a little while. Now these guys are going to come back in here because it can't get away, and we see the one guy here started throwing nitric acid at him that they use for cleaning jewelry. And now you notice one of our good guys here is in a hand fight and he puts the gun down on the counter. You can see his hand there. He had a hold of the gun, puts it down on the counter to use both hands to try to get into the fight, and you're going to see the bad guy reach out and grab the gun again, and the good guy's got to go back and disarm him a second time, which is why if you're not going to use it, get it out of the fight completely if at all possible. Now as these guys are getting kind of driven back, you see when he's got that machete range, it's very, it's a very effective tool, but thankfully they keep him from doing that. And then the one good guy's going to go and get more nitric acid. I told you this is the craziest armed robbery I've ever seen in my life. And now they're going to negotiate because the guys can't get out, the robbers can't get out because of controlled access, but the good guys can't get out of range either. And so now what are they going to do? Everybody's tired of fighting a little bit, so they're going to negotiate some while these guys are trying to find a way to get the heck out of there, and the good guys are trying to keep them from getting hurt. And you can see that the one good guy's bleeding a little bit and all that. So these are the kind of things that happen when you don't have attitude, skills, and plan all in there. Now you can see him here that our good guy actually threw some more nitric acid, and if you go read the news story, that nitric acid actually cost the bad guy part of his vision and permanent scars on his face. But was it extremely effective at disabling him? It really wasn't. So, I mean, I get it, he's trying to use an environmental weapon, but it wasn't particularly effective, which is why I don't recommend using those kind of weapons unless you really know how and unless they're actually effective, which the nitric acid wasn't particularly effective. Now, thankfully, as we speed it up a little bit, these guys are going to finally find a way out of the store. They're going to futz around until they finally get it figured out how to get the heck out of this store, and then they're finally going to leave. So folks, listen, use those environmental weapons, know the range of tools that you have and how to fight, how to defend yourself with hands, with ranged weapons of intermediate and longer range, and gosh, know that what your dangers are and a safe space where you can retreat to if you have to, so that you're not stuck with some bad guys as you try to cover your asp.